Hi there, everyone. Welcome to Lunch for the Soul. I'm Melissa Wilson from Fox 26 Morning News, and I am happy to welcome you here today, a day when we often talk about people going through medical catastrophes a lot of times, but then how they work through those hard times and what it's like to get out on the other side, which is always and typically a beautiful journey to be on the other side of it. And it's a huge day today. It happens to be a cancerversary, we'll call it, for Sarah McDonald. So without further ado, Sarah, welcome to Lunch for the Soul. I'm so happy you're here with me today.
Melissa, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, I want to start everybody from the very beginning of your journey, and it is a dramatic one. I think a lot of us on any given day, if we think about cancer, we're even scared to say it, right? We call it the C word. Nobody wants to say cancer. Not only did you get one diagnosis, you got two in a year, which is unfathomable, and they were unrelated.
Totally unrelated.
So, what was your first diagnosis? How did you find out?
So the first one, I noticed a lump in the floor of my mouth, and I had just been to visit the dentist, so I presumed that it was just an infection. And upon a lot of tests, discovered that it was a super rare form of cancer called adenoid cystic carcinoma, which is basically salivary gland cancer, which you've never heard of because nobody gets it.
And then, if that wasn't enough, where does the second diagnosis come into this?
Right. So I had gone through the surgery and was speaking with my head and neck doctor about the other kinds of treatment I would be going through. And as we were talking, I said to him, 6 years ago, I found a lump in my breast. We did a biopsy and I was told that it wasn't cancer. But is there a chance that, I don't know, it's metastatic salivary gland cancer? That the salivary gland cancer actually traveled to the breast and should we check it out? And he said, Sarah, when salivary gland cancer likes to travel, it likes to go to your lungs or your brain, not your breast. He said, so if you have cancer in your breast, it would be a primary source, unrelated cancer. And frankly, we just never see that in someone so young. But if it'll make you feel better, you should go check it out. And so, spoiler alert, or long story short, I had been misdiagnosed the first time, and I actually had stage 3 breast cancer.
Oh my goodness. So it had been sitting there all those years. 6 years, did you say?
6 years. And so that was pretty nerve-wracking because I thought, oh my goodness, how progressed is this? Clearly, if it was 6 years ago that I found it, we haven't found it early. So things were feeling pretty tenuous with those two cancer diagnoses, and I wasn't quite sure if I was going to live to see the end of the year, to be honest.
So where does treatment come in? Were they treating them both simultaneously? How did that happen?
They were. It was kind of an all hands on deck situation.
Wow.
The doctors were coordinating between them. And my breast oncologist said, hey, we need to start treating this immediately. So she started me in on chemo first while I was getting radiation to my mouth for the salivary gland cancer. And I have to say, I was really, really thrilled that we were able to treat things concurrently because I thought, oh goodness, if I'm only treating one, that's allowing the other one to advance.
Yeah.
So we did treat them concurrently.
You had some pretty tough news in the
Yeah.
middle of all of that,
Yeah.
including family planning, things that when you're younger, you probably may have dreamed about having a family with your husband. What did they tell you?
So when I received my first cancer diagnosis, I was a week away from actually having an IVF, in vitro fertilization. So my husband and I had been on a fertility journey for about a year and a half at that point, and we were thrilled to finally be at the point where we were going to be doing IVF. And obviously, when we received the first cancer diagnosis, we were told, hey, you're going to have to hold off for a little bit until we get through and past this cancer. Mm-hmm. And then with the second cancer diagnosis, we were called back in by the breast oncologist, and she said, hey, I understand you were doing some family planning, and I'd like to know what you've heard about your fertility. And we said, gosh, if we get through the cancers, we understand we could go through IVF then. And she said, no. She said, I'm going to put you on a hormone suppressing medication. And it is a hormone that you need during pregnancy. And I'm going to have you on that for the next 10 years. So you would be 55 when I took you off, and you're not going to be a candidate for IVF at age 55. So we received 3 very devastating pieces of news within a kind of 2-month period.
During all that, your husband was by your side. I see you there with your fun little mohawk going on. So it looks
Right.
like you tried to keep a sense of humor through all of this. Did it help to have a loving man by your side?
Absolutely, no question. He was the most critical part of my care team, and yeah, we tried very hard to say, let's keep our lives as normal as we
Mhm.
can during this time. And this particular photo taken was, Geoff said to me, before we get into the chemo, I'd like to take you away for a weekend, where we can just have some time, just the two of us, before we really get into the serious treatments. And this was at a restaurant down the coast in Big Sur called Nepenthe.
Mhm.
And so he took me away.
Beautiful.
Oh,
So pretty.
it really is stunning.
And then we see you here. What a beautiful picture. The background is incredible. And then I see this photo and it's just so vulnerable. It's so beautiful and it says a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. This was taken about a month after I finished chemo. So I had gone through 6 months of chemo. It was taken about a month afterward by my friend Renee, Renee Bocasile. She called me and said, I think we need to take advantage of the fact that you're bald right now. Let's capture your cancer experience. And she took Geoff and me out to the beach in San Francisco and photographed us.
To see that moment and know that you guys were together. Okay, so now we're going to change things around a little bit. So not only did you have these devastating things happen, you had some miracles happen along
Right.
the way. So let's get into that.
Right. Right. So at the end of the at the end of the treatment for the 2 cancers, I was told, gosh, we have no evidence of disease for the salivary gland cancer. We have no evidence of disease for the breast cancer. And then 2 years after I had my last breast cancer treatment, I was back visiting my oncologist, and I told her, Geoff and I are feeling optimistic that I might live, and we are revisiting the idea of having a family. And we've been speaking with some surrogates. And she said, oh my goodness, I'm so glad you bring this up. There's just been a study in Europe showing women who had breast cancer, who were on your medication, who willfully took themselves off their medication, got pregnant, had babies, and didn't have higher incidence of recurrence. And I said, so what are you saying to me? And she said, you want to have a baby? So we did. So 2 years after my last cancer diagnosis, I did willfully go off my medication, and we did IVF, and I was super lucky, and I got pregnant. And that is the picture of just after having given birth to my daughter, Rory Elizabeth McDonald.
Oh my goodness, what a roller coaster ride. We're talking one extreme to the other of thinking
Yes.
this dream would absolutely never happen. You wrote something that is so vulnerable. We'll get back to that word in your book, and so beautiful, talking about how stoic and strong your husband was through all of this, but one weekday. Can you walk us through that and what that was like to go through?
Yeah. So all of the diagnoses, I was really having trouble getting my head around it. And Geoff spent a lot of time on the couch with me as I worked through my grief. And he, I didn't see tears from him. It wasn't like he wasn't being affected by anything. But I will tell you that the day we heard from the breast oncologist, when she called us back in and said, what have you heard about your fertility? Even though the two of us knew I might not survive the year, somehow we were holding out hope that should I survive, I'd be able to carry a child.
Yeah.
And when we sat there in the room with her, and she said, no, I'm sorry, you're not going to be able to carry a child because of this medication you will be on, I turned and looked at Geoff, and he said, it's just too much. And that was the first time that it really became too much for Geoff, and for both of us. It was a devastating day.
That is a lot, but again, he stuck through it and you've come so far. And look at this photo. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. How amazing. And again, all this took place that fateful year in 2012.
That's right.
My goodness, how far you have come. Okay, so let's talk about how you got from point A to point B. You had a lot of people praying for you. You also decided that you were going to try to do some other things besides modern medicine and tried some things with Eastern medicine. Walk us through, first of all, how you found out about that. Had you done it before? Did you do research? How did you try to put all this together to get through this healing journey?
No, I was a very busy, tech executive, and didn't feel that I ever had the time to do things like yoga or meditation. There simply wasn't the time in the day. So when I received these diagnoses, I turned to one of my very best friends, Tripti. And Tripti was at the time studying to be a yoga instructor. And she had been encouraging me to come to her classes. And I tried one or two very unsuccessfully. And when I shared with her my cancer diagnoses, she said to me, Sarah, you have some of the best doctors, Western doctors in the world. We'll call them Team One. I'm going to be in charge of the Eastern practices. They're going to soothe your soul. We'll call that Team Two. So the Western medicine meant to heal my body. The Eastern medicine meant to heal my soul and help me breathe. So I started attending all of Tripti's yoga classes religiously. I did a lot of what's called guided meditation, where you listen to someone speaking you through a walk or a journey. And when I would do that, I was surprised my ability to mourn and be sad in that moment. I learned to do meditation. I started going to an acupuncturist. And then actually I was being treated at Stanford, and they offered free energy work. You could sign up to have an energy therapist work with you, and it was free. And with all of this, I thought, it can't hurt. And it might help. and it really did. It really helped me to breathe and relax and just allow my body to heal.
And I think a lot of people don't even understand energy medicine, or they don't believe in it. But I've done so many medical stories as a medical reporter, and I've seen how it can truly help people. I think there's still so much more of us I think in time, maybe it will become more ingrained, but how intriguing that they are doing it side by side and offer it free, because it can be very expensive. A lot of people can't do it here in the Houston area because it's not affordable.
Yeah, and actually it was, aside from Tripti, it was also my fertility doctor at Stanford, who, Harvard trained fertility doctor. She actually called me. She was the first person to suggest guided meditation. She just said, Sarah, we don't know all of the connections between the head and the body. And she said, but I believe there are very strong connections. And so if you can calm the head, if you can center the head, I believe it can help the body. And so, of course, I was going to listen to him.
Well, I know your hubby was around. Is he still around by chance? I'd love to get his take on everything. Let's scoot over and chat with the love of your life. Hi, Geoff. Welcome to Lunch for the Soul. Thanks for sneaking in for a minute. Well, I hear you're the man. You're quite supportive. So thank you for sharing your journey. And I'm sure that you've heard the story many times through your wife's book. But let's hear from you how you were able to stand up and take care of her when I'm sure your heart was breaking through all that tough year.
Well, obviously it was a very tough time, but I think I did what any good husband would do, which is to lean in and do everything I could to support her. And just one day at a time, one step at a time, try to get through this very, very difficult experience, and always try to, I did everything I could to support her, but also find ways to continue living our lives, and hold on to the normalcy as best we could while we were while Sarah was facing so many challenges on the health front.
Yeah, it was a lot to take. But then talk about turning things around. Could you even believe the difference after that year goes by and you get these miracles on top of all the shockers? I mean, you just have to be wondering what in the world's happening, right?
Absolutely. It was quite a roller coaster ride. And, we dealt with so many difficult things during the year that Sarah was battling cancer. It was wonderful to have some miracles happen after that too.
And I would say, Melissa, if I can,
Sure.
blow up Geoff a little bit here, he was also really good about reminding us to celebrate when things did happen. So when we got to the end of the year, and I had kind of surpassed every expectation we had, I announced to him, I think I've beaten all my metrics that we thought I would need to exceed. And I think I've earned the President's Club trip to Mexico. So we went down to Mexico for a week just to celebrate being alive. And so that was just kind of amazing that Geoff did things like that.
That is a good celebration right there. I think that that's so important for people to hear this conversation, because so many times you're so busy trying to just survive the emotional thought of maybe losing your spouse, right? And the spouse sometimes doesn't know what to do. I think it's even harder for guys sometimes because, no offense, Geoff, obviously you're very nurturing, but I think nurturing often doesn't come naturally from men, so they don't know what to do. So how did you find those ideas? How did it come to you? Did you have people suggesting it to you? Were you just trying to figure out ways to make her happy? How did you come up with this?
I think just on a day-by-day basis, trying to figure out how I could provide the best support I could to celebrate small wins along the way, to try to enjoy our lives and make the most of a very difficult time. And I think the positivity, the support, the focus on the finish line and
sense of humor.
I think it all adds up. And so I did everything I could, and hopefully it helped.
Yeah. Well, look at all these years now. So what happens now? Do you still have to go and be followed up, or what happens now, Sarah?
I do. So I quarterly drive down to Stanford and meet with doctors, both the head and neck as well as the breast oncologists. The idea here is just we want to be on top of it. And should there be a recurrence, we will get on it as quickly as we can. So yeah, it's quarterly, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with all the tests. I would prefer to know than not to know.
Oh yes, I could see where you would feel that way. Well, everybody can really get a good idea, even a closer look at your journey, get more details, find out how you work through it all through your book, The Cancer Channel. Was that almost freeing? I'm making up a word here. Did it set you free to be able to write all this and to get all that out? I feel like that's therapy sometimes itself.
Yeah, when I was going through all of the cancer treatments, I did not feel there was a book out there that described the lived experience of going through cancer treatments. There were books by doctors explaining why cancer happens or what various treatments do and maybe what the side effects are from those treatments. But I said, gosh, I want to understand mentally, emotionally, and physically what it's like to go through a year of treatments. And so that's why I started writing the book. I actually started writing the book while I was going through cancer treatments. And then along the way, life happened. And it wasn't until really the last year that I looked at Geoff and I said, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to publish a book to help other people, to write the stories of the lived experience so that perhaps other cancer patients can read it and see themselves and feel a little less alone, as well as friends and family who might read it and say, oh my God, this is what someone goes through. I thought that would be a great gift that I can give to other people. And I said to Geoff, this is my 10-year anniversary. If I'm not doing it now, I don't know. So this was another situation where I said to Geoff, I'm going to take a leave from working and I'm just going to finish writing the book. And he was like, okay.
It's important. And I think it's a valuable story for spouses to read as well.
Sure. Oh yeah. That should help them too. Maybe come up with some ideas if they're struggling with that. Well, thank you both for sharing this journey with us. It's a remarkable one. It's astounding all you've been through and come out on the other side. I love seeing your happy ending, so to speak. So only good health to you from now on, both of you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it, Melissa.
Yeah, so good to talk to you. Take care. Keep us up to date with everything. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. And thank you all for being here for Lunch for the Soul. Now, if you happen to catch us a little bit late, hey, we got you covered. All you have to do is go to Fox 26's YouTube page. You can catch the very beginning on this if you missed part of it, and all my other Lunch for the Souls. I always have remarkable guests. I fall in love with them and their stories and their like her, a beautiful ending. So thanks again for being here. I hope you have a beautiful day. If you have any ideas, you can always reach out to me, melissa.wilson@fox.com. And I hope to see you back here, same time, same place next week. Bye-bye.